NGSCSports.com, where you catch all of your current content. If you log on to the website right now, you'll find there was some people around the ways. Alton Barry in Houston, Texas, covered Texas Southern homecoming, and Lincoln came into town, and I don't know how much was left of Lincoln after the 52-7 beating that they took excuse me, at the hands of Texas Southern. John Doucette was hanging around one of his normal places over at Boston College. Uh, John, Virginia, that's a nice win there.
Yeah, a necessary one too. I mean, this is they didn't take advantage of the schedule the way they should have. 4 games and five weekends, but they did finish 2 and 3. I mean, that Northern Illinois game is the one that kind of sticks out at the moment. But over 200 yards on the ground on Saturday, and looking forward to their trip to Army, where they can hopefully get back to 500. But a bowl game is still possible for them. It's still there, but that Northern Illinois loss to begin the season is still a problem.
And I joined the boys this past weekend. Except I'm sure, I know that the journey was a whole lot harder for me. It hurts being the old man of the group. Anyway, I took a trip to Memphis, Tennessee, about 3.5 hours away from where I live, to go cover the Memphis Tigers against Boise State. Thought about Boise State, you think about the field, you see them coming out in the uniforms. Anyway, it was a warm day in Memphis. It was a good game. So watch Memphis hold on to a 35-32 victory. Bradley Walker got to check out a real good one against Navy. Big win over Navy for USF, South Florida football. And of course, Chris Lacey gives us the MLB Weekly Digest. Baltimore Orioles reliever Felix Bautista will undergo Tommy John surgery. You remember Chris? Chris didn't forget any of the injuries that happened.
Yeah,
it does.
Chris was our weekly injury report. Of course, the guys are here with me from Jersey. He's the host of the Enhanced Sports Saturday. 4 to 6 p.m. Also the co-host with the Matters Pop. Hey, Louie.
yes, Ralph.
Listen, I heard the Yankees, they don't have a chance at the third wild card anymore, do they?
No, they don't. Any of the Red Sox.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right.
And of course, from Chicago, el padre Alejandro Vargas. ¿Qué pasa, pai?
Good. How you fellas doing? It's beautiful over here.
Yeah.
Yes, it is beautiful weather. I must admit that. But buckle up.
We actually too.
That won't last for a little longer. But we'll start talking, especially John and all of you guys, besides me, start talking about some real cold. And of course, the co-host and man who helped recreate this show, my partner and good friend, Mr. John Doucette. What do you say, John?
Ralph, as always, good to be with you.
Let's let the band finish playing their little tune.
Yes.
There,
Right.
It is Monday night for a reason here on the show. Usually, of course, we're on each Sunday, but of course, today's Monday because season's over. It's the only day we have after the end of the season and before the postseason. And what an ending to a season. You remember we talked about the American League West And you look at the West, and who is it? Texas and Houston finish with exact same 90 and 72 records. Houston gets the division. Texas gets the wild card. Uh, hey, Louis.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you lately, but the Baltimore Orioles don't
They
suck.
don't suck anymore. They don't suck anymore. No.
John, 101 wins for those Orioles.
That's right. 101 wins. They'll get a week off. They don't have to play until probably Saturday, and it'll give them a chance to get things in right perspective order for a division series against potentially, it looks like, a division foe.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. I want to hold on, Alejandro. I want to make sure that I just realized, don't screw this up as the host. Get this right. So we're going to get into the postseason. Right now, we're going to finish the regular season, and obviously the wild card games that are coming up. But go ahead, Alejandro. You had something going. I'm going to
No,
share
I
this.
just want to. Baltimore then faces whoever wins from Tampa and Texas, right, John?
Yeah, it could be a division foe. It could be for them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
I put something in the chat, Ralph.
Okay, I'll look in there right now. I'm making sure that we are, because of course it says we're live, so and it's showing me we're live.
Yes.
Why is that
All right,
there?
there it is.
There
I
you
just
go.
wanted to find it. I just wanted
Ah.
to find it on there. But yeah, good season again for the Baltimore Orioles. John, the Toronto Blue Jays found themselves, find themselves in the playoffs. We talked about this young Blue Jay team over the last several years now. The sons of former Major League Baseball players, talent there in Toronto, but doesn't seem to be enough to win them a division title. But John, they're in the postseason.
They are in the postseason, and they'll have to do it on the road, unfortunately. It's an interesting team, and the one thing that really strikes, I think, a serious chord is the fact that this team has a hard time coming from behind in games. They are 1-19 when trailing by three or more runs in a game, and in the playoffs, that's not necessarily a recipe for success. Every time you get a base runner on, it's a potential rally, and the Blue Jays are going to have to figure out how to score runs if they're going to survive in advance. Getting behind is not something this team is very good from coming back from.
Mm-hmm. What I see also,
Yeah.
in terms of
And
Toronto is.
Go ahead, Alejandro.
Oh no! What John mentions, the
Go ahead.
factor is probably the bullpen. The bullpen there is kind of something that they have to reconsider. They have to think about it now. How you work out in a good formula, which starter goes to the bullpen. You don't want to put your worst starter in the bullpen because you also want to have that safety net. But they have the potential in the lineup to outscore anybody. They have Thunder, so let's see. That's a series that I'm curious about.
Louis.
Yes.
I'm
They
on
face the
Louis.
Twins, right,
It's all
John?
right.
Yeah, they do. They face the
I know.
Twins, and I think that's an interesting series because I'm not sure that either team really has a big of an advantage when it comes to starting pitching.
No, probably not. I
No.
think this series is going to be the way, to be honest.
I think in terms of overall team, I think they have an edge over the Twins. Let's see. I mean, one thing is just to have the team on paper, but another thing is to have it on the field. Like how.
And let's face it, they've got to go on the road to pull this off, which is not going to be an easy task either.
True.
That's
going to
let
be
me see
really
what
fun.
you got here. So other teams, of course, and then we'll go a little deeper in a few minutes. Uh, Miami Marlins,
Hmm?
for all the talk of this
Yeah.
young franchise and what they could have accomplished, what they might have accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, Alejandro, Miami, they playing
Uh,
baseball, man.
I like the Marlins. They hungry kids. They seem to be on a mission. It's a couple of weird games last week with the rainouts in New York.
Yeah.
But I like it. They hungry. A lot of. I mean, it's also cool to see Kim and G. Uh, you know, getting a playoff spot. A lot of credit goes to Jeter too. Jeter kind of built up the foundation. But I kind of like the Marlins. They young, they hungry, and they seem to have a good chemistry there. Jake Berger was a great addition. Uh, uh, and everybody else, Arias too. I mean, Arias is a guy that changed the dynamic of the lineup. The pitching, I think they're gonna miss Sandy Alcantara. But other than that, I mean, they look good.
And John, while Alejandro's, rightfully so, propping up Miami, that's how you get here to the postseason. They're playing a Philadelphia team, John. If they were to get a matchup in the first round, I'm not saying that Miami will win the series, but a series that they can win. I think it's against the
Yeah.
Phillies, John.
Well, it's a banged up Marlin team that's going to Philadelphia. I mean, they didn't have a rise for the last week of the season because of a bad ankle. They don't have their best starter, and so I do think that the mountain that they're going to have to climb in Philadelphia is going to be a little steep. Last year when the Phillies did this, they were the road team and they went to St. Louis and took care of things right away.
Yeah.
This time, they at least get to be at home to begin the process of defending that championship. I like the Phillies in that series just based on the fact that
So
I think they've got more weapons at their disposal at the moment than the Marlins do.
and they're healthy too.
Yeah,
You
they're
don't want to
healthy
go
too.
play you don't want to go to play a series with a team that looks like a train wreck.
I
that's not gonna help you.
I like the
And
series. It's pretty even. At the end of the day, it's probably gonna come down to experience and lack of defense for the Phillies. I think that's a weakness on the Phillies. I don't see them as a good defending team. I mean, you got Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, and right. I think they experimenting with Harper at first. I think that's probably the big weakness that I see in them. But other than that, they do have the experience that Miami doesn't. Miami don't have. So that's going to be a very interesting series to watch for sure.
The interesting thing for the Marlins will be what they do with Kim Nick. Her contract is now expired. I guess it's routinely expected that she's going to get some sort of an extension, but I don't think there's any doubt that she's made a move in terms of being able to not only handle the job that was given to her, but succeed at it. And the fact that this team has gotten to the playoffs is certainly going to provide her with some leverage when it comes to whatever next contract she gets.
Sure, I think that Luis Arias deal was he created an impact in that organization. I mean, they sent a good starter, a guy that had a great year last year, Pablo Lopez, but they had plenty of pitching. I think now is might not look that great because you don't have Alcantara, but other than that, I think the spark plug in there, Arias was and at some point. So let's see, man.
And I do think they have the manager of the year in Skip Schumacher.
Oh, Skip he should be manager of the year or Terry Labullo.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that now.
Yeah,
I just
we're gonna. Yeah. We're about to get to that, John. That's why we make a good team. Alejandro added a segment. I don't know. I guess I worked too much today. An obvious segment. That of course is awards. 2023 awards, MLB awards. Some of them are pretty damn obvious.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yes.
others, well,
we
I don't
could we
know.
could touch on that at the end. Let's go series by series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to the series, and then you're right. Yeah, we can. John also had a nice little topic. We'll finish with those two.
Okay.
But we go. Yeah. By the way, Louis,
Yeah.
Louis, you there?
Yes. I'm here.
I still hate them
I'm
damn
here.
Yankees.
Oh,
Even in the off season.
by the way,
Absolutely.
they just say that they
Even-
keep in Boone. Ain't
They
that
gotta
a
keep him?
charmer? Yeah, they keep him.
it's
They
not-
keep in Boone.
Yeah.
Because they were
Yikes.
thinking
And
about
the Mets
because
and
they
the
were
Mets
thinking
said
about not keeping
opposite
him.
with Showa. Yeah. And the
Yeah,
Mets
Bob
said the
Showalter
opposite
got
with
got canned.
Showalter, huh?
Yeah.
And the Giants took care of Gabe Kapler on Friday. So
Mm.
those were the two that.
You could have waited till the season was over. I mean, today's supposed to be the day you decide, who stays and who goes. You couldn't wait to finish out the last few games of the season. You had to pull the plug early. Really?
Found it interesting in Showalter's case. I mean, that was done after they swept the doubleheader from the Phillies on Saturday. That's when that was done. And
But
he
they were
decided
Tell
to manage
us
the
how you
last
really
game.
feel, Louis.
Well,
I'm curious to see. Go ahead, Louis.
It's the last game of the season. I mean, you can just wait like another 48 hours before you decide, okay, we're ditching you. You suck this year, so you're out of here. I mean, I had the decency to just finish about the last game of the season before you rip his heart out.
This is Gabe Kapler.
Gabe Kapler and
Oh,
Showalter, both.
yeah, but Showalter was today, wasn't it?
No. Actually, he was done on Saturday. He was notified on Saturday he was done.
Yeah.
But he decided to go
Kaplan was
ahead
the
and
first
manage the
one,
last
right?
game.
You see, I'm more
Kaplan
curious
was the
about
first one.
Yeah. I mean, he was like 3 days ago. I'm
Right.
curious about who's gonna replace Showalter in New York. I heard some rumors about Carlos Beltran. I think they probably got to go internally because
It's actually I
Well,
think it
it
has
is-
some.
you probably
got
hear
something,
potential, nothing official.
Oh, we got another firing.
Which is?
No, the Angels fired Phil Nevin.
Phil Nevin.
Oh boy, what a shock.
Ah.
Not really.
Yeah, that's not much of a surprise. I agree.
Not at all.
No.
I was trying to be sarcastic.
Everybody should be fired there.
Well, that's probably true
So,
too.
no.
Yeah, right. Everybody should be fired there, but that's not a surprise that Phil Nevin got fired. No, that's not a surprise.
No.
No, not at all. Not at all. Arizona, Milwaukee. Interesting little series right there. Alejandro.
Yeah.
You like that?
Oh, I love it. I think that's probably going to end up being one of the most exciting series, just because Arizona's hungry, so they have that drive. They have the drive to do it. But also, I mean, you cannot discount the pitching of Milwaukee. I mean, whenever you have Woodruff, you have Corbin Burns, you have Freddie Peralta, and then you put a bullpen with Ravner Uribe, Devin Williams. I mean, I think it will come down to pitching and that. And I don't want to say my favorite is Milwaukee, but they look to have an edge there.
Yeah.
Braves,
Jared Cash
series?
says Braves World Series.
It could happen. I mean, they there.
It could happen. It could happen. It's supposed to, actually.
Let's say, I was going to say it's supposed to happen. Let's put it that way. It's supposed to.
They have
the Dodgers.
As good as chance as any other of the four that got the bye. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, the wild card series. I mean, the percentage goes down a little, but they got a good chance.
According to the regular season, Alejandro, this is one of those seasons where if the best team doesn't win the World Series, what a failure of a season. It's bad enough to play, but to play as good as the Atlanta Braves did this year, you got to bring home the title.
Let's put it this way: if the Braves end up not winning the World Series, I will feel bad. If Baltimore Orioles don't win the World Series because they got the best record in the AL, I will not feel bad. I will feel bad if the Braves don't win it, but I will not feel bad if Baltimore doesn't win it because they gain experience. I mean, you can't really expect them to win the whole thing. But Atlanta, I mean, the year they had, I mean, it's just unbelievable in every aspect. I mean, the pitching, the offense was outstanding. The running game was outstanding. If they cannot capitalize and bring a trophy home, we're really disappointed.
Well, especially given the fact that they're going to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, as a New Yorker, I might speak for Louis when I say I'm a Met fan, so I don't give a damn about any team in the postseason. None. I'm not going to feel this or feel that, except one feeling, I will admit. If the Baltimore Orioles somehow win the World Series, what a damn story that's going to be to end this season. It would be an incredible ending to this season. When you think of what we've gone through as baseball fans over the last 4 years, we were right here, the four of us, when COVID hit, and we didn't have any baseball to talk about. There was nothing going on, and how fans trickled back, and that being one of the places where people look at where baseball is now with the season that it had, the finish that it had. To cap that off with the Baltimore Orioles, that'd be about the only thing that I'll enjoy. I'll enjoy baseball as a baseball fan, but I'll watch it as a Met fan. So obviously, I'm not rooting for the Braves. No, and I live in the Tennessee area where there's no baseball team here, so the Atlanta Braves are the adopted team in this area.
Right.
Figure that. John, Texas and Tampa Bay.
Well, again, I think, the Texas Rangers were the team that went against the business model, spending $700 million over the past 2 years to create this team that is now in the postseason. They found the manager in Bruce Bochy that really, I think, was the final piece to this puzzle to get them to where they are. The Tampa Bay Rays don't have their best player, their shortstop. They don't have their best starting pitcher in Shane McClanahan. It's a difficult assignment for them, despite the fact that they're going to be the home team. I think if there's one team that wins a road series in the wild card section, I think the Texas Rangers could be that team.
I think, I see it that way. I think in terms of balance, I mean, they have a little bit more than Tampa. I think the issue is going to be the bullpen for the Rangers. I mentioned this a couple of shows ago. I mean, they have some of the guys in there. I mean, they're blowing saves like crazy, like Chapman, Will Smith. I think Leclerc at the end end up being the closer for them, and it's going to come down to that. I mean, bullpens in postseason are probably your baby. You're going to have to figure it out.
I think Tampa Bay's got the better bullpen. There's no question. But I do think the Texas Rangers have the better starters when you look at Scherzer and Nathan Eovaldi. And I think Bochy's going to lean on his starters to get him as deep into games as they can possibly get before he has to go to that bullpen and try and piece it together from there. So I do think that Scherzer and Eovaldi are going to be asked to do probably more than necessary to be able to allow this team to survive in advance. But I think offensively, I think both lineups are pretty good. I just think that Scherzer being who he is and Nathan Eovaldi being a guy that's been through this before, they have guys that have gone through and understand what this is all about. And I think because of that, they might be able to pull this off.
One key guy that you forgot to mention is Jordan Montgomery. They got him from St. Louis, and he was in another level when he hit the Rangers. I mean, quality start after quality start. I mean, this is a guy that could be a wild horse for them. So let's see, man. I like it. That's a pretty even series, by the way.
Louis, how you? Texas, Tampa Bay, Louis. What do you think?
Tough series, I think, but I'm gonna go with them. So I'm gonna go with the Rangers. As much as well as Tampa Bay did, but of course, the Astros and the Rangers were in a dogfight this entire season, and they lost on a tiebreaker. But I'm still thinking that the Texas, has a good solid lineup, and I think they got enough to take it to at least the ALCS. So I'm not carrying the Rangers up by any.
I think didn't Tampa lost like 3 guys to Tommy John?
See, that's another thing too. Where the Rays are getting maybe on the injured side, so that could be a factor as well.
And
like
they
I
still
said,
won that many games.
Yeah, but now we're in the postseason. You need every guy you can get. Like I said, when you get to this point, you want to have every guy healthy on your team. Otherwise, it may cost you.
I think what Castro is going to end up doing is running through that bullpen for at least 2 games and maybe 3 games to try and pull this off, because he knows that his starters are just not going to go deep enough to be able to keep him away from that bullpen. And I think that because he ends up going through that bullpen potentially 2 or 3 times, I think that is how the Texas Rangers pull this off, because you get to see the same guys on consecutive days, and eventually you figure it out. And getting Josh Jung back, which I thought was a major coup for the Texas Rangers. I didn't think he was going to come back at all.
Yes.
But the fact that he's come back into the middle of that lineup and has been able to continue to hit, I think is another reason why you would like the Texas Rangers in this series.
Yeah.
And Toronto, Minnesota. Minnesota, of course, the one division winner that gets to play on wild card weekend, the lowest division winner as far as winning percentage. But John, right back to you, Toronto, Minnesota.
Rocco Baldelli's done a pretty good job in Minnesota, and he hasn't gotten a lot of credit for what he's been able to do since he's been the manager of that team. Again, they've been able to piece it together. For the Minnesota Twins to pull this off, they're going to have to get leads. That's the way to get this done, because the Toronto Blue Jays are just not a very good team coming from behind. And so I think if the Minnesota Twins can figure out a way early in games to impose their will and to get leads in these games, it's going to make it a lot easier for them to pull this off. The other part is they've got to get Carlos Correa going. This guy has had a really tough year at the plate. And with his championship pedigree that he brings to this organization, he's got to become the stud that they've been looking for, and the reason why they brought him back and paid him the money. This is the time of year where he's got to come through for them and be the guy that leads them and puts that team on his back and leads them to the next round.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to come down to good fundamentals by the Twins and overpowering everything in Toronto's case.
Yeah.
The pitching is pretty even. I think. I
just don't like the Blue Jays on the road in this series. I just don't like them on the road.
Let's see.
Yeah, do I.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, Vladdy and Bichette and everybody got to step up if they want.
George Springer's got to step up too at the top of that order. I mean, he's got to give Vladdy and Bichette reasons to drive runs in.
Yeah, although Springer's has a knack for clutch. Good.
Well, again, it's that championship pedigree that he's come from Houston, and it's the way. Same thing with Correa, doing the same thing. So, I mean, these guys understand what this time of year is all about, and they understand that it's the time to produce.
Yeah. They're gonna go Gosman versus Sonny Gray, maybe the first game.
Maybe, yeah.
Yankee.
That's gonna be a good one.
The wild card isn't just one game anymore.
It's a best of 3, and look, I think sweeping is really it's got to be your mentality. I mean, think about how the Phillies got to the World Series last year. They swept the Cardinals in that first round, and it gave them an extra day to set up the division series and eventually league championship. You can't, if you're in the wild card series, the one thing you can't do is get into a 3-game war. Because it's going to destroy you when it comes to the division series. So being able to win that first game and to try and do everything you can to sweep really does become the recipe for success if you want to stay in this thing for a while.
Yeah, you don't want to go to game 3.
Nope.
No.
No. I don't know. What do you think, John? Guys, Miami, Philadelphia. Miami got a shot?
Miami's got a shot, but they've got to get healthy all of a sudden. I mean, not having Ariza for that last week of the season, really with a bad ankle, it's not a good sign. I mean, if he can't play in the field for them and if he can't do what he does on the bases for them, if he gets on, I mean, this is a guy that has been a catalyst for that lineup for the entire season. And if he's only got one wheel to work with, that's not going to help the cause.
Also, it could be a factor here that they rested him the last week, so he could be a lot better than a week.
The reason why you like the Phillies in this series is because of the thump they have in the lineup with guys like Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper and Castellanos. That's why you like the Phillies in this series. They've got a lot of home run possibilities in that lineup and reasons to put up crooked numbers early in games. And again, the Phillies understand the recipe of success because this is how they did it last year. Getting rid of the wild card team as quickly as possible and moving on to the next series is really the way to go. It was the MO that they pulled off last year, and I suspect it's the way they're going to go this year. The one thing I liked about the Phillies last year, and I think it can be said this year, is they understand that having the ability to just kill your opponent as quickly as possible is the way to go. They understand how to do it.
Right.
Yeah, true. Houston Astros sneaked into that first
I was going
division.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, Bryce who? Bryce who?
Bryce who?
I mean, they're getting contribution from everybody in there. The Phillies, I think, it's a very balanced team. What I don't like is the defense. I think it's just a lot of experimentation there. So that probably gonna cost them. But they seem to be doing okay. Trey Turner is a guy that's really clutch for them, and he does everything that you want him to do in the field. He runs well. He plays decent defense. Hits for power. So he might be a key in this series.
Well, I mean, again, here we are: Texas, Tampa Bay, Toronto, Minnesota, Arizona, Milwaukee, Miami, Philadelphia. The playoffs are here.
Yeah. I don't like the buys. I don't like the buys there, like the teams that are sitting down, because you get like a full week of getting yourself out of rhythm. But it's a format, and you have to respect that.
Right. Which answers the question:
or a week to get the rest.
What happened?
Was that
or as I like to call it,
Louis?
well, I like to put it this way: the week off it's rest versus rust. I mean, are you going to be well rested by the time the week is over, or well rusted by the time the week is over, and you'll be out of sync? So I've always thought of it that as a scenario too.
Very good, Louis. Very good.
Well, let's face it, you play 162 games, you put up the kind of record that these teams put up, you deserve the opportunity to not have to go through an extra round in a playoff format.
I know that's true, but still, I mean, you think the rest might be an advantage, a good idea, but all of a sudden you find yourself down in the series, and then you go from being the greatest team to choke. It's happened, and I'm just wondering that that might happen again, because that factor could play in.
But I think the teams that have the week off, which is the Braves, Dodgers, Astros, they understand the landscape that they've gotten into, and they're dealing with managers that also understand the landscape. And so I do think that the plans that these three guys come up with for their teams in the days off that they will have them ready for the weekend.
Okay.
Definitely. I think so.
Yeah, and everybody knows, in the world of sports, like John just said, these guys play the full schedule. So,
Right.
When you play that hard and you win the division, one of the things that and you know it all year long playing for it, is that you're going to get that week off. And basically, that's a well-deserved award for what you've accomplished. But we all know in sports, sometimes that backfires. Sometimes that layoff.
Yeah, but if you don't
doesn't.
give a reward and you have everybody play the extra round, then what's the point of playing 162 games?
No. I'm with you. I'm with you all the way, John. I'm just saying that in sports we've seen it.
It's a reality.
It's a reality.
Anything's possible. That's always true. But then again, like I say, what's the point of playing the regular season if you're just going to have everybody do the same thing?
Right.
What's the point? Remember, the point is Louis believed that his Yankees still had a shot at the third wild card. Yesterday. So that's the point.
I believe teams like the Dodgers that have a lot of veterans there, they could benefit greatly from this break. I believe a team like Baltimore cannot benefit a lot because they're young kids. They always in the move. They just play 162 games. They're young. They got that youth, and they also have to keep up that rhythm. But Dodgers are a veteran team.
Yes.
Houston Astros, they could benefit from that and kind of rethink things. But yeah, I like for those teams to get a break. But young teams like the Braves and young teams like the Baltimore Orioles, they might not find that too great.
Well, here we go. When we come back next week, some teams will have been eliminated.
Yes.
We find out who moves on. That's the beauty of postseason baseball. Number one, you're happy that your team, and if not your team, like all of us, none of ours made it. But if your team doesn't make it, you're a baseball fan. You enjoy now the postseason, and you kind of adopt the team. Not root for a team. Me, I've made it clear. I want to see the Orioles do something special. I'm one of those that tease them relentlessly. I spend years on this show saying the Baltimore Orioles suck. That was supposed to be a staple of this show. I was supposed to, John. We were supposed to turn in our 80s, still doing this show, and me still saying the Baltimore Orioles suck, and that didn't work out.
It did not.
That did not work out. So we'll see how the postseason plays out.
What I like about the Orioles. What I like about the Orioles is they super balance for a young team. They have a lot of everything. They have good running. They have great pitching. I think it's something that's kind of undervalued compared to other rotations. But I think Kyle Bradish. Oh my God, that kid. I know Garrett Cole might win the Cy Young, but if this guy doesn't end up top 5, the voters they need to do something about the voting. Grayson Rodriguez is a guy that could be a key guy for them going down the stretch. And John Means too. John Means is a guy that's a veteran. He could kind of add that veteran presence into that rotation. In terms of the bullpen, I think they're going to miss a lot of Felix Bautista there. But they got some guys there. They got DL Hall doing a fantastic job out of the bullpen. Tyler Wells is a guy that came back from the minors. They sent him down the minors to work on some stuff, and whenever he came back, he's closing games for them. So is DL Hall. Flaherty is a guy that once Means was activated, he moved to the bullpen. Could be a key guy there. Jamie Cano. They have a sick bullpen, to be honest. And the lineup is really, the dynamic there is outstanding. They might not have a Shohei Ohtani, but they got guys like Santander getting key hits. Ryan O'Hearn. I don't know. Mountcastle still hurt, John?
Yeah, looks like it, but I think he'll play.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I mean, and Gunnar Henderson. My God, that kid is a blessing for them. That second half he had is just something that you could write in a movie. And they under the right guy. I think Brandon High understands his team and understand what they're capable of doing. And that's something special when you have that type of leadership there, alongside with Mike Elias, that put the whole thing together. This is like kind of you could write a book about the 2023 Baltimore Orioles and be a bestseller.
Tell me about it. All right, so listen, guys, we got a topic here to talk about, at least as far as we're concerned.
Yes.
MLB awards.
I want to say something. There's a lot of obvious things, right?
Yes.
There's some guys there that are obvious. I want to talk about the guys behind that should be considered.
Because Acuna and Ohtani.
Yeah, they sure.
Those are MVP.
Acuna's numbers for the year are just phenomenal.
Off the charts.
I mean, a 337 batting average. He had 217 hits for the year.
Mm-hmm.
His OPS was 1.012. He had 106 RBIs, and of course, he did the 40-70 with the 41 home runs and the 73 stolen bases. I mean, he's going to win the MVP award unanimously. It'll be unanimous. That's the kind of year that just doesn't come around very often. And for him to be able to do it. And the other thing about the Braves that you got to really take into consideration here is the fact that you look at that infield, for the most part, those guys played every game. I mean, Acuna didn't play yesterday, but he played 161 of 162 games. Matt Olson did the same thing. Austin Riley did it too. These guys played every single day and put up the numbers that they put up, which provided this team with the opportunity to eventually do what they did.
Yeah. Especially Matt Olson. I think if he doesn't end up top 3 for the MVP, there's something wrong with that voting, man. I think the guy, he hit 53 home runs, 52. I mean, that's impressive. He led the league in RBIs. He made the Braves fan not miss Freddie Freeman at all. Also, Mookie Betts. I mean, how can you discount his stats? His contributions. I mean, the guy that plays anywhere, that runs well. I mean, plays great defense anywhere you put him. Plays second.
It's just going to be hard for anybody else to get votes based on the year that.
No, for sure, they unanimous. But I'm saying that the guys behind. I mean, Corbin Carroll is another guy that you saw. There was a stretch in Arizona when he wasn't hitting. Arizona didn't respond that well. He hit at the beginning, right, and they took off. They were in the fight. Corbin Carroll got kind of cold there for like a month or something. Then he picked it up again, and then they were fighting again. So that's in to understand the MVP and the whole concept of the award is value. You have to take into consideration the value that a player has in your team, and for your own record. I think he should get votes as well.
It's going to be hard. The point is, it's just going to be hard for these other guys to get votes. That's it. That's going to be.
They will get votes because you have finalists. I mean, everybody knows Acuna is probably going to win unanimous. I mean, you can't really match that.
What it does for a guy like Corbin Carroll is that when arbitration comes up, the votes that he gets in the MVP race is going to help him to bump up his salary. That's what's going to help here.
John, he signed an extension last year.
Well, he did. You're right, but
Yeah,
there's got to
I
be
think they give
bonus
him like
clauses in that contract.
100 and some millions,
Yeah.
and the guy only played like a month. They're convinced that he was gonna be a star, and they went on and rescinded that guy. If a team thinks that high of you, it's because you're that damn good.
Yeah.
Well, and like you guys said, listen.
Now the
It's
AL.
pretty much, yeah. The AL.
No, I mean everybody knows
Ohtani
Ohtani.
is a runaway, but you got guys like Corey Seager, Julio
Corey
Rodriguez,
Seager, my God,
Marcus Seaman, Yandy Diaz.
Yandy Diaz is a guy that
John,
kind
you
of
got to. That's a good shake. That's a good shake there, John. What's that?
No, it is, and I think that those guys really did contribute to their teams making the playoffs. I mean, Corey Seager was big for Texas this year. Yandy Diaz was big in Tampa this year. I mean, these guys really did contribute to their teams making it to the playoffs, and I think that's why they're going to be in the MVP conversation. But unfortunately, the guy that's got the bad elbow is going to win the thing and is going to win it going away.
Yeah, definitely. I also like Bobby Shedd to get some votes there.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Question's going to be can Ohtani and Acuna win it unanimously? Each one.
I don't see how they don't.
Yeah, I think so. I think they should.
You know how votes go. Welcome
well, I think, look, if you're a voter, if you had a vote, you were paying attention to what was going on. I don't see how it becomes that difficult for them not to be unanimous.
All right, boys. Louis.
Honestly, it cannot be the way the way they've had those seasons. Even though Ohtani was shut down, pitching in August and down by hitting in the term, but still with the numbers he put up, before the injury, how can he not be a shoo-in?
I don't know, but I was thinking the other day, Ohtani would look perfect in the Seattle Mariners. They don't need the pitching, all right? They could squeeze him into the bullpen, ease him up to build up some strength on that arm and just hit. And you add protection to, because I think that was a flaw in Seattle, the offense. The pitching is outstanding.
Yeah, I just think the Mariners ran out of gas in the end. They really jumped off to a great start the second half of the year to put themselves back in the race. But I think that once you got to August and eventually into September, I think that team just ran out of gas, and that's why they didn't make it. And as we said, there was going to be one good team in the American League that wasn't going to make it, and they ended up being that team.
Yeah.
Then again, Seattle's used to running out of gas in the playoffs anyway.
Come on.
Yeah, that's
really. I remember 2001. Remember 116 wins? What happened? Lost in the first round.
Hey.
I remember.
You're talking about 22 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, 22 years ago.
Most of these guys weren't even born yet.
Really?
Louis, I remember 2001. I remember 2001.
We don't need to put that video back up again. We've seen that too many times. I get it.
No, but I mean, let's put an example of how. No, let's try an example of how the best teams don't always make it all the way. Sometimes they bomb out early, and that was just to be a perfect example.
Only thing I remember about 2001 is how it ended. That's it. That's all I remember about 2001.
Don't go there.
Yeah, 2001 was kind of. I think that September 11 events kind of screw everything up for everybody.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's keep going. We're on the clock. We're on the clock here. I have another show to do
AL Cy Young.
Yes, AL Cy Young.
I think it's Garrett Cole. I don't think there's anybody. I mean, now that McClanahan went down with the injury, Garrett Cole becomes the guy.
Yeah, I think so. Also, I mean, consideration there. I mean, as I mentioned before, Kyle Bradish. Kyle Bradish is a kid that has a lot of potential, and I hope he wins a Cy Young in the future. You got guys like Framber Valdez too. That guy throws a quality start. He seems every day. So I think, I mean, the obvious choice here is Cole. There's no argument from me there.
Hey, John, Sonny Gray, John.
Yeah, Sonny Gray would get some votes, absolutely. I mean, he certainly solidified a rotation that at the time he showed up was kind of in shambles a little bit. And yeah, he became a pretty good foundation piece, absolutely.
Yeah. And now we got Blake Snell, man. You can't take it away from him.
Nope.
I think you got guys like Strider, you got guys like Justin Steele in the Cub. They're gonna get votes, but you can't give it to anybody else that's not Blake Snell.
And it's interesting, considering the way the San Diego Padres season went, an under 500 season. Blake Snell still potentially wins the Cy Young Award. I do think the one thing that's going to be held against him is the fact that that team went under 500. And I think that the point will be, well, if Snell didn't pitch for this team, they would still be an under 500 team. So how does he be the Cy Young Award winner? But the numbers will certainly take care of that.
I was actually arguing with people about this. A lot of people with low IQ, blaming this thing on Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin is a legend, in my opinion. He's a guy that I mean, he has won 3 Manager of the Year awards. I mean, you can, and he took him to the NLCS last year. I think the retooling here have to be in the front office. AJ Preller went crazy. It's a guy that I admire a lot.
In the end, there was just too much money in that locker room.
Too much money in that locker room. A lot of people underperformed. They didn't hit well with runners on. The bullpen was disastrous. A lot of people blaming Melvin. No, well, why don't you pitch Hader? You're not going to pitch Hader in a contract year. You're not going to pitch Hader more than 3 outs in the night. And also, you have to protect them. The other guys, I mean, they didn't contribute, and that was the downfall. So, I mean, I think they led the league in double plays. Also, like Sander Bogarts and Manny Machado. So you can't really win games when you don't hit situational, and your bullpen is in shambles. And they also, let me add, they lost Musgrove and they lost Darvish. So they big keys.
They lost right there.
I want to give Louis a chance. To talk about his boy Garrett Cole and possible, it looks like a Cy Young Award. Louis.
Yeah. Consider the Yankees, went on to par this year. Good to see that we got at least one Yankee up for a Cy Young winner. One of the few bright spots the team had this year.
Talk about damn Yankee during an award. Ruined my freaking night.
We're a few bright spots.
AL Rookie of the Year, John.
Well, I mean, you got to look at the Orioles. I mean, it's got to come from that team, you would think.
I think Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah, it's got to be Henderson. I mean, it's got to come from that team.
He's had a hell of a year. 28 home runs, 82 RBIs, 99 runs scored.
Yeah, you can't argue that.
No, you can't. I mean, like I said, it had to come from that team, and he would be, I think, the prime logical candidate.
A guy that you have to consider also is Young from Texas. Not winning it, but
Josh Young.
Votes. Yeah. I mean, the kid was a stud. But I think Gunnar Henderson at the end is just going to clean that up.
And in the NL?
In the NL, obvious choice, Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids there that will get considerations, including Jordan Walker, including Nolan Jones in Colorado. Nolan Jones, I think, almost did a 2020.
Senga from my Mets. Yeah.
Senga might be your second choice there.
Yeah.
So there's actually in the AL also Yoshida from the Boston Red Sox should get some votes.
Well, again, the second half of the year wasn't as good as the first half, however, and I think that that's probably why he'll kind of fade a little bit. But yeah, he'll get some votes.
Definitely. Manager of the year. My God.
And these last two, AL Manager of the Year.
I think
high.
to me it would be Bochy just because the Texas Rangers did make it. I mean, Brandon Hyde obviously is going to get a lot of consideration. Probably does win the award because they win over 100 games. But I do think in his first year as manager of the Texas Rangers that Bruce Bochy figured it out. And granted, they made some trades at the deadline to help him out. Certainly, getting Max Scherzer to come on board was a big boost for that team. But I do think that the way that Bochy handled that team and handled the way that they crumbled to, say, the middle of July, right through almost to the end of August, when it looked like the whole thing was just going to implode, and they were going to go from a team that had a chance to win the division to a team that wasn't even going to make the playoffs. He figured out a way to get it back together again around Labor Day, and they fought their way in. I think Bochy's going to get a lot of consideration, even though I think Brandon Hyde is the guy.
I think Brandon Hyde is a guy too. Also, another guy that we might forget is Dusty Baker and what he did with the Astros. Astros were missing Altuve, and they were missing Jordan Alvarez for a big chunk of time, and they also didn't have Justin Verlander until like August.
Until the deadline, right.
So to keep them afloat for this long, into the last day when they end up winning the division, is something that needs to be considered in terms of the votes. And the NL, I mean, my two candidates there are going to be Lavulo and Skip Schumacher. I think Skip is a guy that's very underrated. A guy that, since he's playing the Marlins, nobody sees a lot, but he protects his player, he protects his pitching. So that's awesome. And also, he's a big key. Actually, he was a big key in St. Louis with the management shifting and everything. I mean, they made it to the playoff last year. Skip stepped out, go to the Marlins. Oliver Marmol looks lost. And a lot of people in St. Louis are pissed why they let Skip.
Well, they're certainly happy in Miami. I think Schumacher wins it. I just don't think that there's a better story in the National League than what he has done with that team. And I mean, the Marlins were picked to finish third in that division when the preseason was rolling around, and they go from that to making the playoffs. And think about it: the National League East gets three teams that make the playoffs: the Braves, the Phillies, and the Marlins. I mean, I do think that Schumacher ends up being the guy, but I think that's a race. Torey Lavulo certainly deserves a lot of credit for the way he kept the Diamondbacks together. When again, that was another team that looked like it was going to implode when they went 8-16 in the month of August, and it looked like they were going to fade. But he got that team back together again in September, and they made that late ditch run to get themselves into the playoffs. I think those are the two guys that will go back and forth on that award. That may be the most hotly contested of all the awards that come up this postseason.
Which two guys, John?
I think it'd be Lavulo and Schumacher. That'd be the two guys that really go head to head to that.
I heard you guys, and I didn't hear any love whatsoever for who I think is the front runner, and that's Greg Counsell on the job that he did in Milwaukee.
True, but Counsell is a guy that's been around and has been around that core. So
Counsell will get votes, absolutely. And the fact that they won that division will really be the reason why he gets a lot of votes. But I think the job that Schumacher did in Miami and the job that Lavulo did in Arizona, when both of those teams looked like they were going to fade and brought those teams back together again, I think is the reason why those two guys will get more votes in the end.
I think another guy that should get some votes is David Bell in Cincinnati, and what he done with a young core of
but they didn't make the playoffs. They faded, and
no,
that's
they not.
That's going to be the problem.
They need to add some pitch in there, man, because that lineup looked fantastic when they all healthy. Worst managers: Aaron Boone, Oliver Marmol. The opposite of.
We didn't do managers?
You just did it.
Yeah.
In the AL, Aaron Boone. No, we doors managers, Ralph. Aaron Boone
No, Aaron Boone.
and
What's
Oliver
the third?
Marble.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. All right, John. John has the last topic of the evening. I gotta
Go for it.
wrap this up, guys. I got 10 minutes to wrap it up or less because I've got another show right behind this one. Here we
Look,
go.
Major
Go
League
do it.
Baseball had a tremendous year attendance-wise. It's the first time since 2017 that Major League Baseball reached 70 million in attendance, and there were 11 weekends in which 1.5 million fans showed up to ballparks across the country. 17 teams this year will report average attendance of 2.5 million for their home games. 24 are going to announce that they'll have 3 million for their games this year. The average attendance was up 9.1% this year of 29,295. It's the highest growth in 30 years. That goes back to 1993 when the last time they got to this point. And the best news of all is, and we've talked about live streaming, and when we talked about the Valley Sports situation and how that really affected teams, especially the Diamondbacks and the Cardinals and a couple of others. MLB TV broke records this year for their streaming season. It's the first time that they've done it in the 21 years that MLB TV has been together. A 14% increase in the use of MLB TV this year. Fans watched more games this year using that service. It was up 17%. The best part about that was that it was also up another 17% in people watching games from the very first pitch until the last out. And I think live streaming is going to become a hot button topic with Major League Baseball when the offseason arrives, because I do think that individual teams are going to start to think about using live streaming as their source for being able to watch their teams play. 12.7 billion minutes were seen on MLB TV this year, and that is a 9% boost over 2022 when it was at 1.7 billion minutes. People were watching baseball games this year, and they watched them from the beginning of the season until the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that bodes well for the upcoming playoffs, especially if these are playoffs that don't have mismatches. And I don't think any of these first series are necessarily mismatches. And as long as that continues right on through to the World Series, I think Major League Baseball is going to have an incredible year when it comes to attendance and viewership and ratings.
And yeah, yeah, that's right. And time, of course, the time of game
we're
has
back
gone
in
down.
PNC.
Yeah. Games were 24 minutes shorter this year.
Yeah, it was 2 hours and 40 minutes was the average.
Yeah, and 30 minutes shorter than they were in 2021. And part of this change in the game, there's been an increase in runs per game from 8.6 to 9.2. Stolen base attempts per game, stolen bases per game. The stolen base success rate. We talk so much about small ball and how the stolen base seemed to have been lost, John. And
well, everything reverts around the pitch clock. The pitch clock changed everything, and it changed everything for the good. And I think that's what you saw this year. You saw a much better product being put on display on a daily basis, and I think that's why the viewership that MLB TV got contributed. The pitch clock really did change the dynamic of the way the game is played, the way the game is watched, and because of that, more people were willing to sit there and watch the game from the first pitch to the last out.
Absolutely.
It really we wondered how these rule changes would work. We talked about them in the beginning of the year, and hey, that's a good first year. Louis, final thoughts.
Two quick thoughts. You're saying that it would be a tragedy if say like the Orioles or the Dodgers or Atlanta Braves, if they didn't make all the way, it'd be a losing effort. No, I'd be a disappointment, yes. But think of the teams that bombed out this year and really failed. Like say, well, of course, the A's, the Royals, the Mets. I had to. See that was a failure. When you lose 90 to 100 games a year, that is a major failure. And of course, the Cardinals were a major disappointment this year as well. Those teams were the failures. Losing games like that. That is where the failure comes in. If the Orioles, Dodgers, or Braves, lose before they get the World Series, yeah, it's going to be a big disappointment, but I wouldn't call it a failure. And I'm going to be doing baseball predictions for the playoffs on next week's show. So if you guys get a chance between 4 and 6, where John is, or 3 or 5, where Alejandro and where you are, Ralph, I'll be taking care of that.
You know what? He just made me hate the Yankees even more. I don't know why.
I know.
I just got this extra venom there. Alejandro, final thought. Final thoughts.
Looking forward to this week and the wild card series. See teams really perform and just enjoy the game as a whole. I mean, it doesn't get any more better than this. And I actually got a call from Jimmy Driscoll. I want to send a shout out to him. He's doing fine. He's just busy, that man. I can't believe the man's like 80 years old and still active, man. Still
it's the idea.
Running and doing things, man. Jimmy Driscoll is a blessing. So shout out to my boy.
All right, John, final thoughts.
No, I think this year was all about business models, the ones that worked and the ones that didn't. And I think that in the end, the playoff teams that made it had the models that really needed to be adopted by other teams. And I just think in the end, other than the Texas Rangers, who did spend a tremendous amount of money to make the playoffs, but you look at the other teams that made it, teams like Tampa Bay and Baltimore and Miami and so forth, it's their business models that were able to get them there. And I think that is what's going to be another hot button topic for the offseason, teams creating better business models to give themselves better chances.
Well, my final thought is this. Enjoyed the baseball season. Really enjoyed the baseball season. Yes, as a Met fan, it was very disappointing, but as a baseball fan, it was a good season. It was, again, nice to see the Orioles do what they did. You expected the Braves and the Dodgers, to do as well as they did, to see the race in the West, the way it came down. Seattle had that moment, that 4 to 6 week span that they were on fire. Yeah, they were unbeatable. They were on fire, man. You started wondering, is this going to propel them? Well, somebody had to miss out. But it was fun.
Exactly.
The postseason is here. We look forward to it. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is In the Batter's Box, the NGSC Sports Weekly Baseball Show. I'm your host, Ralph Garcia. Please remember the website. It is ngscsports.com, where you catch all of your current content. Please follow us and like us on Facebook, of course, at NGSC Sports, on Twitter at NGSC Sports, and, of course, on YouTube at NGSC Sports. Please don't forget, when you're on YouTube, to like and subscribe. We appreciate that, folks. We'll be back next week. I'll be back in about 17 minutes with Everything Titans, the Tennessee Titans show.
Nice. On
the NGSC Sports Network. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. Everybody, have a good evening, folks. Thank you.
Good night.
3, 2.